r/MaliciousCompliance. Teacher ignored my allergy, so I called 911 in class. Hashtag chunk 1. I can feel my throat starting to close. Not completely. Not yet. But there's that distinctive tightness creeping in, that familiar sensation that makes my heart rate spike and my palms go clammy. I know this feeling intimately. I've known it since I was 7 years old, and I'm intimately acquainted with every stage of what comes next if I don't get help. The thing is, I'm not supposed to be experiencing this right now. Not in Mr. Hendrick's AP history class. Not today. I look up from my desk, scanning the room in that panicked way people do when they're searching for someone in authority. My eyes land on Mr. Hendrick standing near the front of the classroom, and I feel my stomach drop. He's holding a plate of cookies. Golden brown, chunky cookies that I can smell from here, that distinctive, unmistakable aroma of peanut butter. He's smiling like he just won the lottery. "All right, class," he announces, his voice booming with that particular kind of condescension substitute teachers seem to perfect. "I brought treats today because you've all been so well behaved. Who wants one?" My hand shoots up immediately. Not because I want a cookie, but because I need his attention on me right now. This is important. This is urgent. Mr. Hendricks, Oh, and before anyone asks, these are homemade by my wife. Absolutely delicious. Peanut butter chocolate chip. He's already moving through the rows, setting cookies on desks. Walking toward my row. Walking toward my desk. The tightness in my throat intensifies. I stand up. I'm not usually this assertive, especially not with teachers, but I can feel my body responding to the allergen in ways that my brain recognizes as a warning system. This is real. This is happening. And this man is walking directly toward me with a plate of poison. "Mr. Hendricks, I need to tell you, I have a severe peanut allergy. I need you to not bring those cookies near me. It's actually in my 504 plan. It's on the file you should have received." He stops walking. He looks at me with an expression that I'll remember for the rest of my life, not out of any sense of validation, but because it's the exact moment I realize this day is going to be catastrophically worse than I anticipated. He laughs. It's not a kind laugh. It's the laugh of someone who has decided, in that instant, that I am not being serious. That I am, in fact, the worst kind of person, someone who is lying about a medical condition, presumably for attention. "A severe allergy," he repeats, his tone making it clear he's using air quotes in his head. "Right. And I suppose you need to be excused from class too. Go sit in the nurse's office." Behind me, I hear a few snickers. The kind of snickers that come from teenagers who sense weakness and social opportunity. I feel my face flush with heat and humiliation, which is almost worse than the physical symptoms because it clouds my judgment. It makes me feel like maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I should just sit down and shut up and not make a scene. Except that my throat is still tightening. "No," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just need you to not bring peanut products into the classroom. That's what my 504 plan says. It's a medical accommodation. If peanuts or peanut residue get into the air, I can have a reaction without even touching them." "Without even touching them," he repeats, and I can hear the disbelief in every syllable. "So what, you're allergic to the air now? That's convenient." He sets a cookie on my desk. He literally sets it directly on my desk, right on top of my notebook, and walks away. I stare at it like it's a live grenade. My hand is shaking as I reach down to brush it off my desk, onto the floor. Around me, the other students are watching this interaction with the kind of fascination that only teenage social drama can generate. I'm hyper-aware of their eyes on me, their phones possibly out, potentially recording. This is exactly the kind of situation that goes viral in group chats. I'm not joking, I call after him, hating how desperate I sound. "Please take the cookies out of the room. I'm serious about this." He turns around, and I see something in his expression shift. It hardens. He clearly thinks I'm being difficult. Demanding. The kind of student who's trying to ruin his day by forcing him to accommodate some made-up medical condition. "You know what?" he says, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I think you're being extremely disruptive right now. I've got documentation that says you have an allergy. If you're really so concerned about it, you can go sit in the hallway during class. But I'm not getting rid of these cookies because of what is clearly an exaggeration. People who have real, severe allergies don't sit in regular classrooms. That's a fact." He's wrong. He's completely, dangerously wrong. But he's also the adult in the room, and he's made his decision with the kind of finality that suggests argument is pointless. I feel my hands trembling as I gather my things. My throat is noticeably tighter now. I can feel it when I swallow. I want to argue, to explain, to somehow make him understand that this isn't about drama or attention, it's about my actual, literal survival. But instead, I do what I'm told. I stand up, and I walk toward the door. "And close the door quietly behind you," he calls after me, his tone making it clear that he's already moved on from this interaction, already decided that he's in the right and I'm just a problem he's solved. I step into the hallway, my heart pounding, my throat closing incrementally with each breath, and I realize something with absolute clarity. He has no idea what's about to happen. Hashtag chunk 2. The hallway is mostly empty, which is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because I don't have to deal with the social humiliation of being seen sitting outside the classroom like I'm in trouble. A curse because there's nobody here to help me if things escalate. I sink down against the lockers across from the classroom door, positioning myself where I can still see inside through the small window. My notebook is in my lap, but I'm not pretending to do homework. I'm breathing. Deliberately. Carefully. In through my nose, out through my mouth, the way my allergist taught me years ago when anxiety about my allergy started becoming its own kind of problem. The tightness is still there. It hasn't gotten dramatically worse in the last 2 minutes, which is good. It also hasn't gotten better, which is not good. I pull out my phone and open my notes app, where I've kept a detailed log of every allergic reaction I've ever had, something my mom insisted on after a particularly bad incident when I was 13. I scroll through them, grounding myself in the knowledge that I've survived worse than this. I've had reactions where my throat closed so much I could barely swallow my own saliva. I've had reactions where my skin erupted in hives so severe they looked like I'd been attacked by an invisible enemy. But I've never had a reaction in a room full of people where the adult in charge thought I was lying. That's the part that terrifies me in a way that's distinct from the physical symptoms. Through the classroom window, I can see Mr. Hendricks has returned to his lecture. He's standing in front of the whiteboard, talking about something, the French Revolution, maybe. I can't really hear him through the door, and students are eating his cookies. I watch as a girl in the front row takes a bite, chocolate and peanut butter crumbs falling onto her shirt, and I feel a spike of panic. Those crumbs are going to travel. They're going to get on her hands, and she's going to touch her face, and then she's going to touch something else, and then someone's going to touch her and then touch the door handle, and every single contact is a potential vector for peanut protein to reach me. This is how airborne reactions work sometimes. It's not like in the movies where someone eats peanuts and the allergic person suddenly can't breathe within 30 seconds. It's slower and more insidious than that. It's cross-contamination. It's contact. It's the slow accumulation of exposure until my body decides it's had enough. I pull out my EpiPen and set it on my lap, visible, a physical reminder that I'm not being dramatic, I'm being prepared. My phone buzzes. It's a text from my friend Jordan, who's in AP Bio right now. Why aren't you in history, lol? I don't respond. I can't explain this in text without sounding unhinged. Another buzz, immediately after. Mr. Hendricks is being weird about you, isn't he? My older brother had him last year. He's a dick. At least someone gets it. I'm about 5 minutes into my hallway exile when I notice something that makes my heart rate spike even more. The classroom door opens, and a student comes out, Marcus, I think, from the soccer team. He's got cookie crumbs on his hands, and he's walking directly toward the bathroom, which means he's going to pass within 3 feet of me. Hey, he says, not really looking at me. Is Hendricks always that intense about stuff? Just, keep your distance, I say quietly, and I can see the confusion flash across his face before he shrugs and keeps walking. My throat feels tighter. I check the time on my phone, 10:47 a.m. I have 43 minutes left in this period. 43 minutes of sitting in this hallway while peanut-contaminated students potentially come in and out of the classroom, spreading allergen particles like some kind of biological warfare. 43 minutes seems impossible. I stand up and walk to the other end of the hallway, creating more distance. The lockers here are older, covered in old club posters and faded paper signs advertising events from last year. I lean against one and try to assess my symptoms more carefully. Throat, tight, but manageable. I can still swallow without significant pain. Breathing, slightly elevated, but that might be anxiety more than actual respiratory distress. Skin, no hives yet, but there's a slight itchiness on my forearms that could be nothing or could be the beginning of something. Heart rate, absolutely elevated, but again, anxiety is a component here. The problem is that I can't tell where anxiety ends and actual allergic reaction begins. This is something I've struggled with my entire life. Sometimes I convince myself I'm having a reaction when I'm really just panicking. Sometimes I convince myself I'm just panicking when I'm actually having a reaction. It's a dangerous guessing game. My mom always says, when in doubt, treat it like a reaction. Better safe than sorry. But I'm not in doubt right now. I'm in a high school hallway, outside a classroom where a substitute teacher has made it abundantly clear that he doesn't believe I'm actually in danger. Going to the nurse's office feels like abandoning my position. Feels like proving that he was right, that I'm overreacting, that I'm dramatic, that I'm the problem. And maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I'm just anxious because he humiliated me in front of the entire class. Maybe my throat feels tight because I'm stressed, not because I'm being exposed to allergens. Maybe. Except my body doesn't do maybes. My body does what it does, and I've learned to trust its signals because my life depends on it. The hallway is so quiet. That's the thing that strikes me most forcefully in this moment, the absolute silence of a high school during class time. No students in the hallways. No teachers in the corridors. Just me and the muffled sound of Mr. Hendricks' voice continuing his lecture about dead French people to a room full of teenagers eating cookies that could kill me. I lean my head back against the locker and realize with sinking certainty that nobody knows I'm out here. Not really. If something happens, if my throat closes further, if I can't breathe, if I go into anaphylaxis, Mr. Hendricks will assume I'm in the bathroom. The administration won't check on me. The nurse won't come looking. I'm completely alone. And then I feel it, a distinct, unmistakable increase in tightness. Not anxiety-induced. Real. Physical. My body's way of saying that this situation has moved from manageable discomfort to genuine medical emergency. I look down at my EpiPen, then at my phone, and I realize that the decision I'm about to make will define the rest of my high school experience, however this all plays out. #Chunk3. The tightness in my throat gets worse incrementally, like someone slowly turning a dial. I pull out my phone and open the medical app where I track my symptoms. My hands are shaking, actually shaking, as I try to type what I'm experiencing into the notes section. The cursor blinks mockingly at me. *10:52 a.m. Throat tightness increasing. Slight difficulty swallowing. Possible urticaria developing on forearms. Anxiety elevated but separate from physical symptoms. I read it back to myself, and the clinical language feels both helpful and completely inadequate. How do I measure difficulty swallowing? How do I know if this is the beginning of something serious or just my body's dramatic response to stress and proximity to peanut products? The hallway suddenly doesn't feel like a sanctuary anymore. It feels like a trap. I'm isolated, away from help, with a teacher inside the classroom who has already made it clear he won't believe me if I come back and tell him things are getting worse. That's when I notice something that sends a jolt of ice down my spine, the fire alarm. It's mounted on the wall about 10 feet away from me, encased in its red plastic box with the white lettering that says, "Pull in case of emergency." I've looked at thousands of fire alarms in this school over the years without really seeing them. Now I can't look away. I could pull it. The thought arrives fully formed, completely irrational, and yet somehow logical in a panicked way. If I pull the fire alarm, everyone evacuates. Everyone leaves the classroom with their peanut-contaminated hands and clothes. The allergen exposure stops. Mr. Hendricks can't lecture about the French Revolution if the entire school is standing in the parking lot. But pulling a fire alarm for a non-fire is a serious offense. I'm pretty sure it's illegal. And even if I did it, what would I tell people? That my substitute teacher was mean to me, so I decided to evacuate the entire school building? The social fallout would be nuclear. I'd be the girl who cried fire. I'd be expelled, probably. Definitely suspended. My parents would lose their minds. I turn away from the alarm and force myself to focus on my breathing again. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. My phone buzzes. Another text from Jordan, "You okay? You are being weird." I can't respond. I don't know how to explain that I'm having a minor allergic reaction in a high school hallway, and I'm too embarrassed to go get help from the nurse because a substitute teacher publicly humiliated me 40 minutes ago. That sounds insane when I think about it like that. That sounds like I'm being dramatic and petty, and like maybe Mr. Hendricks was right about me. But he's not right. I know he's not right. Except how do I prove it? How do I prove that this tightness in my throat isn't just anxiety? How do I prove that the slight swelling I can feel developing on my lips isn't my imagination? The classroom door opens again, and this time it's a girl I recognize from my English class, Riley. She's holding a cookie in one hand and her phone in the other, and she's definitely got peanut butter smeared across her fingers. "Oh hey," she says, noticing me. "Why are you out here?" "I needed some space," I say, and I'm careful to keep my distance. I take a step backward, trying to make it look casual and not like I'm physically recoiling from her. Riley doesn't seem to notice. Hendricks is actually kind of hilarious in a weird way. Like, he's so convinced that everyone's lying about everything. My friend told me he once made a kid who actually had asthma do a breathing test to prove they needed their inhaler. An actual breathing test. In class. Like he's a pulmonologist or something. My stomach drops. "Are you serious?" I ask. "Yeah, it was last year. The kid's parents got involved and Hendricks got chewed out by administration, but he's still teaching, so apparently they didn't care that much." Riley takes a bite of her cookie, and I watch a fresh shower of crumbs fall onto her shirt. "Anyway, I'm going to the bathroom. See you around." She walks past me before I can respond, and I'm left standing in the hallway with the absolute certainty that Mr. Hendricks has done this before. He's made other students feel crazy and small and unreliable, and the school did basically nothing about it. I check the time again, 10:57 a.m. 36 minutes left. My throat feels like it's getting tighter, and now I'm not even sure if that's real or if I'm just spiraling. Riley's story has somehow made everything worse. Now I'm not just worried about my physical symptoms, I'm worried about how Mr. Hendricks will frame this if I go back to the classroom. He'll say I'm being dramatic. He'll say I'm trying to get attention. He might even imply that I made the whole thing up. And maybe nobody will believe me. That's the real terror underneath everything else. Not the allergic reaction, I know how to handle those. I have an EpiPen. I can call 911 if I need to. I've been trained my entire life to manage my allergy. But I've never been trained to handle an adult in a position of authority who doesn't believe that my medical emergency is real. I lean against the locker and pull out my EpiPen again, just to hold it. Just to reassure myself that I have this tool available if things get worse. The blue and yellow cylinder is cool in my palm, and it's somehow both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because it's there, terrifying because I might actually need it. My lips definitely feel swollen now. I pull out my phone and try to take a selfie to document it, but the camera quality makes it impossible to tell if there's actually swelling or if I'm just imagining it. I look basically normal. Of course I look normal. Everyone has always said I look fine. Mr. Hendricks thinks I look fine. The substitute teacher before him probably thought I looked fine too. I'm starting to understand why Mr. Hendricks thinks he can get away with this. Because nobody can see an allergy just by looking at someone. Nobody can verify that my throat feels tight. Nobody can measure my symptoms except me. And if nobody believes me, then maybe I'm not actually sick at all. That's the thought that sends me to my feet, that makes me walk toward the nurse's office. I need someone to verify this is real. I need someone to witness my symptoms and confirm that I'm not crazy, not dramatic, not lying. I need someone to believe me. #Chunk4. The nurse's office is on the opposite end of the building from where I am now, which means I have to walk past the main office, past the cafeteria, past the trophy case in the front hallway. It means I have to be visible. It means if Mr. Hendricks decides to check on me or send someone to find me, there's a clear trail of where I went. I walk anyway. My phone buzzes again as I'm passing the cafeteria. This time it's not Jordan. It's a text from an unknown number, Mr. Hendricks says you're disrupting class by leaving repeatedly. He says if you're not back in 5 minutes he's marking you absent for the entire period. I stop walking. My chest tightens in a completely different way than the allergic reaction. This is rage tightness. This is the kind of tightness that makes you want to scream. Who texted me? How did Mr. Hendricks get a student to text me? That has to be. I don't know what that is. Inappropriate, definitely. Manipulative, absolutely. But also weirdly smart because now he's got witnesses to my disruption, and he's put me on a timer and he's made it seem like I'm the problem for leaving class. I'm supposed to be back in 5 minutes. The nurse's office is still at least 3 minutes away if I walk fast. I pick up my pace, and I can feel my heart rate climbing. The tightness in my throat is still there, still present, still real, but now I'm hyper-aware of everything else too. The way my palms are sweating. The way my breathing has gotten shallower. The way my hands are shaking again, except now I can't tell if it's from the allergic reaction or from pure adrenaline and anger. When I round the corner near the main office, I nearly collide with Mrs. Patterson, the vice principal. She's holding a stack of papers and she looks mildly annoyed until she sees my face. "Whoa," she says, stepping back. "You okay? You look like you're about to pass out." "I need to get to the nurse," I say, and I'm proud that my voice sounds relatively steady even though everything else feels like it's vibrating at a frequency I can't quite control. "I'm having an allergic reaction." Mrs. Patterson's expression shifts immediately. She's been the VP here for 5 years, and she knows about my allergy. She knows that I'm not the type to make a big deal out of nothing. She puts down her papers on a nearby desk. Come on, she says, gesturing for me to follow her. Nurse Chen is in her office. I'll take you. We walk together, and I'm acutely aware of how Mrs. Patterson is watching me. Not in a suspicious way like Mr. Hendricks does, but in the way adults watch you when they're genuinely concerned. She asks me questions as we walk. When did the reaction start? What was the trigger? Have you used your EpiPen yet? And I answer them, and it feels good to have someone take me seriously. The nurse's office is warm and smells like hand sanitizer and that weird medicinal air that all nurses' offices smell like. Nurse Chen looks up from her desk as we enter, and her expression goes from neutral to immediately alert. Hey, she says, coming around the desk. What's going on? Allergic reaction, Mrs. Patterson explains. She was in Mr. Hendricks' class. Something flickers across Nurse Chen's face at that, recognition, maybe, or concern. She doesn't say anything though. Instead, she guides me to a chair and starts running through her own assessment. She checks my eyes for signs of swelling, asks me to stick out my tongue, which does feel slightly swollen, thank God, finally something visible, takes my blood pressure, listens to my breathing. You're right, she says after about 30 seconds. There's definite swelling in your lips and tongue. Mild, but present. How long ago did the exposure happen? About 30 minutes, I say. And you're still experiencing symptoms? Throat tightness? Yes. And difficulty swallowing. And I'm not sure if I have urticaria or if I'm just paranoid, but my skin feels tingly. Nurse Chen nods like this is exactly what she expected. She looks at Mrs. Patterson. I'm going to give her some antihistamine to see if we can stop this from progressing. But I want to keep her here for observation for at least an hour, and if anything gets worse, we're using the EpiPen and calling 911. What happened? Mrs. Patterson asks. How was she exposed? I explain about the cookies. About Mr. Hendricks bringing them in. About how he wouldn't let me leave. About how he didn't believe me when I said I was having a reaction. Mrs. Patterson's jaw gets tighter with every word. He forced you to stay in a room with peanut products despite your documented allergy, she asks, her voice doing that thing it does when she's about to call someone into her office and make their life difficult. Yes, I say. And then when I told him I was having a reaction, he said I was faking it for attention. Nurse Chen hands me a bottle of water and 2 tablets. I swallow them down, and I watch both adults exchange a look that I can't quite interpret. It's the kind of look adults give each other when they've just realized that something serious has happened and they're about to have to deal with it. I'm documenting this, Nurse Chen says quietly, mostly to herself. She turns to me. I need to call your parents. And I need to write up a full incident report. Mrs. Patterson, I assume you'll need to. Yeah, Mrs. Patterson says. She already has her phone out. I'm calling Hendricks into my office. And then I'm calling his employment agency. This is the second incident this year with a student's medical needs not being taken seriously. Second incident. Just like Riley said. My phone buzzes in my pocket, and I can almost feel the weight of that 5-minute deadline expiring. I pull it out and check the time, 11:07 a.m. 10 minutes have passed since that text. Mr. Hendricks is probably wondering where I am, or maybe he's already marked me absent, or maybe he's told some other student to text me again, or maybe. You can turn that off, Nurse Chen says gently. You're not going back to class today. And you don't need to worry about what Mr. Hendricks thinks about any of this. She says it with such certainty, such finality, that for a moment I almost believe her. But I know how these things work. I know that even if Nurse Chen writes a report, even if Mrs. Patterson calls his employment agency, even if my parents get involved, Mr. Hendricks will still be out there. In some classroom, with some other student, maybe telling them their asthma isn't real or their anxiety disorder is just attention-seeking or their documented medical condition doesn't actually exist. Unless I do something to make sure he isn't. #Chunk5. The antihistamine starts to work about 20 minutes later. The tightness in my throat eases just enough that I can swallow without wincing. The swelling in my lips goes down slightly, still visible, but less dramatic. My skin stops feeling like it's crawling, and I can actually breathe without counting each breath like it might be my last. Nurse Chen keeps me in the observation chair anyway, checking on me every few minutes. She's already called my parents, and Dad said he's leaving work early to come pick me up. She's also already filled out an incident report, the official kind with boxes and check marks and a section marked severity level that she checked as high risk. Mrs. Patterson is gone. She left about 15 minutes ago to go deal with Mr. Hendricks, which means she's probably calling him down to her office right now, which means he's about to realize that his little power play with the 5-minute deadline didn't actually accomplish anything except to make him look worse. That thought should make me feel good. It doesn't. Instead, I'm sitting in the nurse's office with my heart still racing and my hands still shaking, and I'm thinking about what happens next. Because this isn't over. Not even close. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from Jordan, where are you? Hendricks is pissed. He's saying you abandoned class and now he's telling people you're having emotional episodes and faking allergies for attention. Some people are actually believing him. Some people are actually believing him. Of course they are. Because that's how it works. You have an allergic reaction in front of a teacher who refuses to believe it's real, and somehow that teacher becomes the victim in everyone else's story. Somehow the narrative shifts to make you the crazy one, the dramatic one, the attention seeker. And by the time the truth catches up, half the school has already decided who you are. I text back, I'm in the nurse's office. Had to get away from the exposure. Jordan responds immediately, he's literally saying you left to cause drama. He's telling people you wanted to get him in trouble. He's playing the victim so hard right now. My chest tightens again, and this time it's not the allergy. It's something worse. Can you tell people what you saw? I text back. That the cookies had peanuts and he wouldn't let me leave. There's a long pause. Long enough that I know what's coming before Jordan actually responds. Yeah, I can try, but it's my word against his, you know. And he's an adult and we're just students. People are going to believe him either way. Plus he's already talking about how students might be pressured into backing up false claims. So like, even if I try to defend you, it's going to look like peer pressure. He's already thought of that. He's already figured out how to make himself the victim and anyone who defends me look like they're just doing it because we're friends. He's thought about the angles and the narrative and how to twist everything so that by the end of the day, I'm the bad guy. The antihistamine is wearing off faster than it should, or maybe it's just that my anxiety is spiking and making everything feel worse. My hands are definitely shaking worse now. There's definitely a tightness coming back to my throat. You're okay, Nurse Chen says from her desk, and I realize I must look as panicked as I feel. Your vitals are stable. What you're experiencing now is anxiety, not the allergic reaction. How can you tell? I ask, and my voice sounds small. Because anxiety tightness and allergic reaction tightness feel different. You'd know the difference if you've experienced both. Is something stressing you out? I could tell her about the texts. I could tell her about Mr. Hendricks already spinning the narrative. I could tell her about how even though she wrote a report and Mrs. Patterson is dealing with him, none of that actually stops the rumor mill or the way people choose who to believe. But instead, I just nod. This is normal, she says, and she sounds so certain that I almost believe her again. When you've been in a situation where an adult didn't believe you or take your health seriously, the aftermath can be really triggering. Your body is remembering that stress. But you're safe now. You did everything right. Did I? Because it doesn't feel like I did everything right. It feels like I'm about to be the villain in someone else's story, regardless of what the facts are. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a group chat message from someone I don't even know well, someone in Mr. Hendricks' class, and it's already spreading. OMG, is anyone else realizing that the girl in our class might actually be faking? And then another message. Yeah, this is literally so dramatic. She probably just wanted to get out of the test. There's a test today. I forgot there was a test today. Mr. Hendricks didn't mention it when he was bringing out the peanut butter cookies because he was too busy proving a point. My phone keeps buzzing. Message after message. People I don't know well enough to correct them. People who've already made up their minds based on something Mr. Hendricks said or implied. People who think that a 16-year-old girl would deliberately expose herself to the thing that could kill her just to get out of a test. I turn the phone off. Nurse Chen is watching me carefully, and I know she's about to say something about how I did the right thing, how I shouldn't worry about what people say online, how this will all blow over. But I don't need her to say those things because I already know they're not true. This won't blow over. This will become the story that follows me through the rest of high school. This will be the time I faked an allergy. This will be the test I avoided by causing drama. Unless I do something about it. The thought comes to me suddenly, clearly, with a kind of certainty that scares me a little. Unless I document everything. Unless I make sure that there's an official record that can't be argued with. Unless I follow protocol so precisely that there's no room for Mr. Hendricks to twist the narrative. The school's emergency protocol. The one that's posted in every classroom. The one that says students have the right to call for emergency services if they believe their health and safety are at risk. I didn't follow it yet. But I could. And when I do, there will be 911 recordings and paramedic reports and official documentation that no one can argue with. I need my EpiPen, I tell Nurse Chen. I think I'm having another reaction. Hashtag chunk 6. Nurse Chen's head snaps up from her desk. Another reaction. Where are you feeling it? I hate myself for the lie even as I'm saying it. My throat. It's getting tight again. And my skin feels itchy. She's moving before I finish the sentence, professional and efficient, pulling out her supplies. But there's a question in her eyes, a uncertainty that wasn't there before. She checks my vitals again with the pulse oximeter, and I watch her frown slightly at the numbers. Your oxygen saturation is normal, she says slowly. Your heart rate is elevated, but that's consistent with anxiety. Can you point to where you're feeling the tightness? I swallow hard, and the irony isn't lost on me. I'm literally performing the symptom I'm lying about while trying to sound convincing. Upper throat. Like before. Let me look, she says, and I open my mouth for her inspection. She's gentle but thorough, checking the back of my throat, looking for swelling. I don't see any inflammation. No swelling of the uvula or the soft palate. The EpiPen sits on her desk in its case, and I can feel it like a physical weight even though it's 3 feet away. I could reach for it. I could insist that I need it, that I'm having another reaction, that she should call 911 again. The thought is there, seductive and dangerous. Then my phone buzzes against the chair beside me, and the sound pulls me back to reality like a slap. I'm going to be honest with you, Nurse Chen says, sitting back down in her chair. She's choosing her words carefully. I don't think you're having another allergic reaction right now. I think you're experiencing a panic attack, which is completely understandable given what you've been through. But we need to be careful about escalating the situation if there's no actual medical emergency. There it is. The thing I was already thinking but didn't want to admit. I was about to do the exact thing that Mr. Hendricks accused me of doing, cry wolf, cause drama, waste emergency resources. I was about to make myself the problem instead of him. Okay, I say quietly. You're right. But the thing is, I wasn't wrong about needing documentation. I wasn't wrong about needing proof. I just picked the wrong way to get it. Nurse Chen brings me a cold compress and a bottle of water. What Mr. Hendricks did was serious, and there will be consequences for him. The school takes medical negligence extremely seriously. But those consequences happen through the proper channels, the incident report I filed, the conversation Mrs. Patterson is having with him right now, whatever his administration decides to do next. You don't have to manufacture a crisis to make sure he's held accountable. People are saying I faked it, I tell her. People are already saying I did all of this for attention or to get out of a test. Some people will always say that, she says, and there's a sadness in her voice that suggests she's seen this before. There are people who will believe the worst version of your story no matter what proof you show them. That's not something you can control, and it's not your responsibility to convince them otherwise. My phone buzzes again. I don't turn it back on to look, but I can imagine what the messages say. More speculation, more judgment, more people choosing sides based on incomplete information and rumors. Is there anything I can do? I ask. Anything that would actually help? Nurse Chin considers this. You could write a statement. Document what happened, what you felt, what Mr. Hendricks said and did. Include times, dates, specific quotes if you remember them. I'll keep that with the incident report. That creates an official record. Then, if Mr. Hendricks tries to spin the narrative, there's documentation from both of us that contradicts his version of events. It's not as dramatic as calling 911 again. It won't fill the hallways with paramedics and police. It won't force the school to take action immediately and visibly. But it's real. It's something I can control. Okay, I say. I can do that. You should also know that Mrs. Patterson will probably want to talk to you after she's done with Mr. Hendricks, Nurse Chin adds. She'll want to get your account of what happened. Don't worry about saying the right thing, just tell her the truth of what you experienced. I nod, and we sit in silence for a moment. The antihistamine has done its job, the physical symptoms of the allergic reaction have mostly faded. What I'm left with is the emotional aftermath, the betrayal of having an adult dismiss my medical needs, the anxiety of watching rumors spread, the strange guilt of almost lying about a second reaction just to make a point. There's something else you should consider, Nurse Chin says carefully. After this is resolved, after Mr. Hendricks has been dealt with and the dust settles, it might be worth talking to someone about processing what happened. A school counselor, or maybe someone outside the school if you'd feel more comfortable with that. Medical trauma is real, and what you experienced today was traumatic. It's not something you have to just move past on your own. I hadn't thought of it as trauma. I'd thought of it as unfair, as frustrating, as enraging. But she's right. Being dismissed by an adult when your life is in danger, being forced to choose between your safety and obedience, that does something to you. It stays with you. My dad arrives about 15 minutes later. He looks stressed and angry in equal measure, and he goes straight to Nurse Chin for a debrief before coming to sit with me. I can see him processing what happened, the realization that his kid had to call 911 in front of their entire class because a teacher refused to believe her medical condition was real. We're filing a formal complaint, he says. And if the school doesn't handle it properly, we're consulting with a lawyer. This is unacceptable. I believe him. I can feel his anger and his protectiveness, and it should make me feel safe. But instead, I'm thinking about all the things that come after the official complaint. The escalation. The way Mr. Hendricks will dig in harder. The way the rumors will spread further. The ways this could get worse before it gets better. I'm going to write a statement, I tell my dad. Documenting everything that happened. He nods approvingly, but I'm not doing it for approval. I'm doing it because it's the right thing, because it creates accountability, because it's the only way I can control my own narrative while the fallout from today's disaster continues to ripple around me. #Chunk7. The statement takes me 3 hours to write, and I end up going through 4 different drafts before I have something that feels honest without being melodramatic. I'm sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop, my phone face down beside me because I can't handle watching the message count climb any higher. My mom keeps offering me food, which I keep declining, and my dad keeps disappearing into his office to make phone calls in low, angry voices. By the time I finish the document, it's almost 9 p.m. I've written out everything, the way Mr. Hendricks dismissed my concerns on day 1, the comments he made about allergies being overblown, the moment he brought the cookies into class with a smile that felt deliberately cruel. I've included direct quotes as much as I can remember them. I've documented the physical symptoms I experienced, the moment I realized he wasn't going to help, the decision to call 911, the way he tried to convince me to hang up. Reading it back, I'm struck by how damning it all is when it's laid out like that. It's not just negligence, it's deliberate. It's a pattern. And seeing it in writing makes it real in a way that living through it somehow wasn't. I email it to Nurse Chin with a timestamp, and I copy my parents. Then I turn my phone back on. The messages are worse than I expected. There are text threads from people I thought were my friends, people who were in the classroom and apparently spent the last few hours deciding that I'm either a liar or a drama queen. One message thread in particular makes my stomach drop. It's from Jessica, who sits behind me in first period and who I've known since sophomore year. Asterisk, literally why would she fake an allergic reaction? Like that so extreme, asterisk. And then someone else responding. Asterisk, to get out of Mr. Hendricks' class obviously. I heard she hates him, asterisk. Asterisk, yeah but 911 in the middle of class. That seems psycho, asterisk. Asterisk, right. Like there had to be other ways to handle it, asterisk. I feel my chest get tight reading it. These are people who were literally in the room. They watched a paramedic put an EpiPen in my leg. They saw my face when I couldn't breathe properly. And they're treating it like I orchestrated some elaborate performance. But underneath the anger is a creeping doubt that I recognize from earlier today, the doubt that Mr. Hendricks planted so effectively. What if I did overreact? What if I should have handled it differently? What if? My phone rings, and I almost drop it. It's Principal Patterson. At 9:15 p.m. on a Friday night. Hi, this is Principal Patterson, she says, which seems unnecessarily formal for a call she's clearly making from her personal phone. Is this a good time to talk? Yes, I say, my voice smaller than I'd like it to be. I wanted to reach out personally before you hear about this from anyone else, she continues, and my stomach drops further because those words never precede good news. We've been investigating the incident with Mr. Hendricks, and I've reviewed the security footage from your classroom. I've also spoken with Mr. Hendricks at length about his conduct. I wait, not trusting myself to say anything. Mr. Hendricks claims that he brought the cookies to class without checking the ingredients, Principal Patterson says carefully, and that he didn't realize they contained peanuts. He also claims that you never explicitly told him that you needed medical accommodation before the incident occurred. The fury that rises in me is so sudden and so intense that I have to set my phone down for a second just to breathe. I never explicitly told him. He spent an entire class period listening to me explain my allergy. He literally watched Nurse Chin send an email about it. That's not true, I say, and I'm proud that my voice comes out steady. I told him about my allergy on the first day. Nurse Chin sent him documentation. I emailed him a copy of my medical plan. I'm aware, Principal Patterson says, and there's something in her tone that suggests she's not buying his story either. However, I'm mentioning it because Mr. Hendricks is claiming that your call to 911 was made maliciously, as a way to embarrass him or retaliate for the test you failed yesterday. The room seems to tilt slightly. I called 911 because I was having an allergic reaction and he refused to help me, I say, and now I can hear the tremor in my voice. I wasn't trying to retaliate. I was trying to survive. I believe you, Principal Patterson says, and she sounds like she means it. That's actually why I'm calling. Despite Mr. Hendricks' claims, the evidence supports your account of what happened. The security footage shows you in clear distress. It shows Mr. Hendricks refusing to allow you to leave the classroom. It shows you making the 911 call after he explicitly told you not to. That's a serious problem. So what happens now? I ask. Well, that's complicated, she says, and I can hear her choosing her words carefully. Mr. Hendricks is a tenured teacher with 15 years at this school. The district has to follow specific procedures for dismissal. However, we're initiating a formal investigation into his conduct, and I'm recommending suspension pending the outcome of that investigation. Suspension. Not firing. Not immediate removal. Suspension, which means he could come back. Which means he could be in the hallways, in the teacher's lounge, potentially back in a classroom. How long is the investigation? I ask. That depends on several factors, Principal Patterson says. But typically, we're looking at several weeks. I want to be transparent with you about the process because I'm sure you're aware of how these things work in a school setting. There will be questions. There will be people who side with Mr. Hendricks. There will be rumors and speculation. I think about the messages on my phone. The threads of people already picking sides. I know, I say quietly. Your statement was very thorough, she continues. That's helpful. I'm going to be recommending that your parents consider contacting a lawyer, not necessarily to sue the school, we're taking this seriously, but to make sure your interests are protected throughout this process. Medical negligence is serious, and you have rights. After we hang up, I sit in the kitchen in the dark for a long time. My mom eventually comes in and finds me there, and she doesn't ask questions, she just sits down next to me and lets me exist in my own silence. The problem is that Principal Patterson was right about one thing, there will be people who side with Mr. Hendricks. Probably a lot of them. He's been at this school for 15 years. He probably has friends. He probably has people who owe him favors. And I'm just a 16-year-old with an allergy and the audacity to call 911 when my life was in danger. By tomorrow, the school will have officially suspended him. And by tomorrow evening, I'm sure, there will be people saying that I got an innocent man fired. That I ruined his career. That I'm a liar. I'm not sure how to survive being right when being right means everyone will hate you. Hashtag Chunk 8, the aftermath. Monday morning, I wake up to find that I've made the local news. Not the front page, I'm not that important, but there's a small article in the community section of the website for our regional news station. Local high school student calls 911 during class over allergy concerns, is the headline, and below it is a photo of our school's main entrance that I don't remember being taken. My stomach churns as I read the article, which is surprisingly balanced but still manages to make me sound dramatic. Words like dispute, alleged, and claims pepper the text. It mentions Mr. Hendricks by name. It mentions the suspension. And in the comments section, which I know I shouldn't read but do anyway, people are already weighing in. This is why kids today are so soft, someone named Debate Champion 47 writes. In my day, you just avoided the food you were allergic to. The teacher was trying to help, another comment reads. Asterisk he brought treats for the class. How was he supposed to know, asterisk? But then, buried deeper in the comments, someone wrote, asterisk peanut allergies can literally kill you. If a doctor says you can't be around something, your teacher has a legal and moral obligation to respect that. Good for this kid, asterisk. My mom finds me reading comments at 6:30 a.m., still in my pajamas, and gently takes my phone away. Not today, she says firmly. Not before school. School. The thought makes me want to throw up. I consider faking sick. I genuinely contemplate it, my mom would probably let me stay home, given everything that's happened. But the rational part of my brain, the part that's been running on overdrive since Friday, knows that hiding will only make things worse. If I'm not there, the narrative writes itself, I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, I did something wrong. I go to school. The hallway feels different. Quieter in some way, even though it's the same crowded chaos as always. Or maybe I'm just hyper-aware of every glance, every head turn. I keep my eyes down and focus on getting to my locker. Jessica is there, with her friend group, and they all go very quiet when they see me. I hear someone whisper my name, and I feel heat flood my face, but I don't look up. First period is awkward but survivable. My English teacher, Ms. Ramirez, gives me a nod that feels like support, and a few classmates avoid my eyes entirely, which I'm almost grateful for. At least they're not performing concern or judgment. But it's third period, Mr. Hendricks' period, that will determine everything. He's not there. There's a substitute, an older woman who introduces herself as Mrs. Morrison and looks deeply uncomfortable with being assigned to a class that's apparently become infamous. She doesn't mention what happened. None of us do. We take our seats, and someone in the back, I think it's Marcus, raises his hand and asks if we're still taking the test that we missed on Friday. Yes, Mrs. Morrison says. Principal Patterson sent over your test materials this morning. The test. The one I failed. The thing that started this whole chain of events. It feels absurdly small now, but also impossibly important. I'm not sure what kind of curve they're giving us, if any, or if my failure is still on the books. But as Mrs. Morrison hands out the test papers, I decide I don't care about the grade. I just want to do better this time. I get through the test without crying, which feels like a victory. At lunch, I do something I didn't expect to do. I sit with Keisha and Marcus, two people from my biology class who I don't know well but who were kind enough to not look at me like I was either a villain or a victim. Keisha slides her tray over to make room, and we eat in companionable silence for a while before Marcus says, that was absolutely insane on Friday. I brace myself. Nah, I mean like, good job, he continues, and I realize he's not mocking me. That takes guts. Calling 911 in the middle of class while everyone's watching. That's ballsy. I was panicking, I say quietly. I wasn't trying to be brave. Yeah, but you had to, Keisha says. She's looking at me with something like respect, which is both comforting and unsettling. That guy literally refused to let you leave. That's insane. Like, legally insane, I think. My parents hired a lawyer, I say, surprising myself by admitting it. Just to make sure everything is documented properly. Yeah, you should, Marcus says firmly. That dude was messed up. Everyone knew he was weird about the allergy thing. Not everyone, I say, thinking about the comments online. Thinking about Jessica's text threads. No, but the people who matter knew, Keisha says. There's something final about the way she says it, like she's closing a door on the debate. Anyone with half a brain can see what happened. The rest of the week passes in a strange blur. Mr. Hendricks doesn't return. The suspension is official, announced via email to all the parents by Wednesday. I read my mother's email exchange with Principal Patterson, where they discuss liability, medical protection laws, and the importance of following emergency protocols. At one point, Principal Patterson writes, *, your daughter did exactly what she was supposed to do. The school should have done the same, *. By Friday, the news cycle has moved on. The article disappears from the homepage, replaced by stories about a local business scandal and an upcoming city council election. The comments stop multiplying. Life, impossible as it seemed on Monday morning, returns to something resembling normal. But I'm different. I'm quieter, maybe, but also something else. I'm angrier, I think. Not at the situation anymore, but at the fundamental unfairness of having been right in the most costly way possible. Mr. Hendricks will probably get his job back, or transfer to another district. He'll teach other classes, other students, and he'll be more careful about his dismissal of medical conditions. But he won't have learned that he was wrong, not in the way that matters. He'll have learned that there are consequences to ignoring liability, which is not the same thing. As for me, I survived something I thought I wouldn't survive. I called 911 in a room full of people. I let an ambulance with flashing lights come get me. I proved that my allergy was real in the most dramatic way possible, and I still don't know if that's enough to change anyone's mind. But I know this, I would do it again. Not because I'm brave. Not because I wanted to make a scene. But because living is non-negotiable, and sometimes survival requires making a scene. And that has to be enough.